Good evening, everyone. This is Trudy McCree. I'm a Rescue Reston supporter, and I'll be your moderator for the webinar tonight. The purpose of this webinar is to update you on recent activities and also explain how you can help and get more involved. Before we go into the meet, let me just share a few logistics. First of all, we will be sharing a few polls throughout the evening to get some of your background, so you'll notice those come up occasionally. Please take the time to put an answer in. Second, during the presentation, many of your lines will be in silent mode, and I hope you'll help with that as well. So would everyone please go on mute or use the *6 button to be on mute. At the end of the remarks, we will open the lines. You can hit *6 again to ask questions. Additionally, during the presentation, there is a chat window. If you look to your screen on the left, if you click on the icon that looks a bit like an American flag, down at the bottom you see a little like a speech bubble, and that is the chat window. I'll type welcome there now and you will see that. If you have a logistics problem or a question you'd like to share during the material, you can post something there and it will be visible to the group. Robin Hogan and I will monitor that and either reply in the chat window if appropriate or hold your question to the end. Last, following the webinar, we will post the slides shortly and the audio and slide replay within a few days. If you're eager for that information, just watch the rescuereston.org website. Okay, with that, I'm going to move to slide 2 and introduce our speakers. We have a great group of experts, as you know, who have been dedicated to this cause from the Rescue Reston organization. There's Connie Hartke, President, John Pinkman, Director, David Burns, Director, and from Greehan, Taves, Pandick, and Stoner, our Counsel, Randy Greehan. And as I said, I'll be your moderator. Thank you very much. With that, I'll turn it over to John Pinkman to cover the next several slides. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, and I thank everyone for joining us tonight. Our goal tonight is to provide an understanding of the background surrounding the issue, provide a brief overview of what has happened to date, explain the BZA's decision of April 15th, describe the appeal to the Fairfax County Circuit Court, and share actions that you can take to help us move forward. Rescue Reston is a grassroots organization working to save the recreational green space at Reston National Golf Course, a 166-acre certified Audubon cooperative sanctuary program golf course on the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Our group was brought to action because of a July 27, 2012 attempt by the owners of Reston National Golf Course to turn the golf course's open space into residential development, which is contrary to the Fairfax County Comprehensive Plan and the Reston Master Plan, as well as the 1971 rezoning of the golf course property. Founded and as a planned community by Bob Simon, in 1964, Reston National Golf Course has been in place and operating since before 1971 rezoning that created Reston. Not shown, but equally important, Reston was protected from unrestrained development through its unique standing as the nation's first planned community and the strong zoning laws that were created via the 1971 and 1989 land use plans. The 1989 land use plans were incorporated into the county's comprehensive plan as the Reston Master Plan. Updates to the Master Plan, independent of the actions that we are covering, began during the planning process, anticipated the arrival of the Silver Line Metro. In 2005, RNGC, Reston National Golf Course, was purchased by Reston National Golf Management, which is a majority owned by Northwestern Mutual. Bought as a golf course, it has profitably operated under that ownership without incident until 2012. Then, Northwestern Land Use Attorney sent a letter to Fairfax County Zoning Administrator requesting information for the process for building residential housing in 2012. Rejecting that request, the zoning administrator stated that the county comprehensive plan, of which the Reston Master Plan is part, must be modified as a part of the process to obtain approval for residential development. Reston National Golf Management appealed the zoning administrator's decision, stating they do not have to update the comprehensive plan in order to develop the property, putting forth mythical arguments that they have the right to develop the property because it's located in a PRC, a Planned Residential Community Residential Zoning Area, among other strange arguments. Rescue Reston was started in my living room with two other neighbors to galvanize community support and stop the plans for development from moving forward. We started that day almost 3 years ago with 3 people. Now there's 6,000 and growing every day, and that's momentum. For unknown reasons, Reston National Golf Management requested multiple delays for the BZA appeal and then reactivated their request for a BZA hearing on November 4th, 2014, as we coincidentally headed into the holiday season. Rushing the hearing, Northwestern Mutual hoped to prevent protests. The hearing was held January 2015. We'll get to that in a minute. In April 2015, the BZA announced their decision on the appeal, which will also be discussed in depth later in the webcast. So let's move on to that hearing. Mobilizing the community in the middle of winter is a formidable task. You can imagine how hard it is when you try to invite 20 or 30 people to a party at your house and you're going to give them free food and drink. But over 500 angry Reston Rescue members and community supporters attended that hearing, created an overflow audience that packed the auditorium and making a strong statement to the BZA regarding the community's view of allowing the development on the golf course, which, by the way, they continually remind us that day that our opinions and our comments had absolutely no effect on their proceedings. The home team, comprised of Fairfax County Attorney representing the Board of Zoning Administrators, Reston Association, and their attorney, Rescue Reston, represented by Randy Greehan, all presented cases including strong, incontrovertible evidence that Reston National Golf Course is zoned as open space golf course, and that there must be an action to amend the Fairfax County Comprehensive Plan, a legislative action, before any residential development could be considered for the golf course. The away team, representing Reston National Golf Management, Northwestern Mutual provided their evidence that the zoning administrator was incorrect in that determination letter. So, the Board of Zoning Appeals stated that they would take our evidence under consideration, and provide their decision in April 2015. The BZA also requested that additional evidence from the zoning administrator and the appellant be submitted for review in the April decision. But, now, that's a lot of buts. But I'll let Connie Hartke fill you in and tackle all the rest of the buts. Connie?
Yeah, Connie, I think I'll take it, and then you can. I'm just going to speak briefly, and then you can pick up after that.
Okay.
So thank you, John. This is David Burns. I'm a director of Rescue Reston, and I'm a lawyer, but not a land use lawyer. So it gives me a little different perspective on this. Randy Greehan, who is a very experienced land use lawyer, and who will be speaking in a few moments, will talk in more detail about the legal aspects of the case. But thank you. I just really wanted to focus on the BZA decision, which was handed down on the 15th of April. And this first bullet point here, which has 3 sub-bullet points under it, really on the first 2 of those 3 sub-bullet points, that the BZA in April 15th, they issued an opinion which I think, you could say, fairly say, was pretty fragmented and inconsistent and difficult to understand. And they issued a written decision which was all of about a page long, and it in some ways muddied the waters rather than clarifying. But I think 2 things, and 2 important things, really do come out in this for me. One is that they reversed the zoning administrator's decision that a comprehensive plan amendment was required to redevelop the golf course. And we think and feel pretty comfortable with our position that that was very much opposed to what the zoning ordinance says. The zoning ordinance is a legislative action passed by the Board of Supervisors. And in a PRC, a planned residential community district, such as Reston, it's pretty clear from the zoning administration, we think it's from the zoning ordinance, we think it's very clear that you can't redevelop the golf course without an amendment to the comprehensive plan. And the Reston Master Plan is part of the comprehensive plan. So that means you can't redevelop the golf course without going to the Board of Supervisors and getting a change to the comprehensive plan, which is a higher hurdle for anybody wanting to develop the golf course to meet. So we think the BZA was just flat wrong on that. The number 2 bullet point on the development plan amendment, leaving aside for the moment how the BZA ignored the evidence that we supplied about existing development plans which were certified by the county as being final, they basically punted on the development plan issue, and they said, well, we're not going to consider that right now because we don't have a concrete proposal to develop the golf course in front of us. In fact, they did have a very concrete question in front of them. What RN Golf, the owner of the golf course, was saying is, we want you to tell us, the zoning administrator, that we've got the right to develop this as residential property. That was a very concrete thing that the BZA could have and should have ruled on. Instead, they punted on that. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because bullet point 3, the BZA did say that the zoning administrator decision that a PRC plan application is required. They did uphold that. But that's a ministerial process, although it does go to the Board of Supervisors. The first 2 bullet points do go to the Board of Supervisors, a comprehensive plan amendment and a zoning plan, development plan amendment. And by saying that they weren't going to decide that issue until they had an application, it really opens the door for the owners of the golf course to come in with a ministerial application. And if we don't object at this stage and say, no, you need a development plan amendment for that, just as with the comprehensive plan issue, we possibly are going to lose our right to object at a later stage. And that's why this appeal is important. And with that, Connie, I think I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, David. As I tweeted out on the afternoon of April 15th, it's complicated. I'd like to start with the 3rd and 4th points on the slide. RN Golf, and actually David just covered this, RN Golf specifically asked about residential development of the course, and the BZA ignored that completely. On the 2nd bullet point, the BZA choosing to not consider any of the evidence, I was just, my jaw dropped sitting there in that big auditorium that afternoon. We walked in that morning so confident, and then to hear them say, they literally said they were setting the clock back to the summer of 2012 and only looking at the evidence in hand the summer of 2012. Well, imagine if a robber makes a holdup at a bank and he's arrested out on the street. During his jury trial, the prosecution produces video and fingerprint evidence that clearly IDs the robber. Then the judge tells the jury to ignore that evidence because it was not available at the time the arrest was made. That's what the BZA did that day. It is outrageous. Choosing to ignore the evidence belies explanation. And so let's move to the next slide and talk about the broader implications if this ruling were not challenged. What other original development plans are missing from the files? Not just in Reston, but all over Fairfax County. You can be sure that speculators with highly paid attorneys know where Reston's skeletons lie and are watching closely the Circuit Court of Appeals to determine their next move. Who is in control of Fairfax zoning and land use? Is it our Board of Supervisors and county staff, or deeply pocketed speculators salivating over any property remotely close to the silver line? For the record, the Board of Zoning Appeals does not have authority to rezone land use. The fact is that Reston zoning is complicated and it is special. Reston is a planned residential community district, one of only 3 in the county. People pay a premium to live in Reston precisely because it is a planned community, and they look to the Reston Master Plan to understand the allowed uses of property. Green open space is an integral factor in the design of all 3 PRCs, planned residential communities, and you can read just a bit more about this in a very easy-to-understand one-pager on the website rcareston.com. That's RCA for Reston Citizens Association, rcareston.com. Click on the tab for 411, the 411 series, and you'll find it. Now, the county spent over 4 years with citizen participation during the first phase of updating the Reston Master Plan, focusing on those areas around the Silver Line where higher density development is both approved by the county and expected by Reston citizens. Dig them deep and build them high in the Dulles corridor, where we have planned for density. The risk of letting this determination go unchecked is that this is the equivalent of declaring open season on Reston. Already, Mark Looney of Cooley, LLC, has influenced a proposal that may remove the requirement for our village centers to undergo a comprehensive plan amendment when Phase 2 of the Reston Master Plan goes before the Board of Supervisors on June 2nd. The developers are looking for more flexibility. Our Board of Supervisors must stand firm, and we must encourage them to do so. I'll now turn this over to Randy Greehan to discuss the appeal.
Thank you, Connie. As Connie mentioned, on April 15th, or Connie or John mentioned, on April 15th, the BZA issued its decision in this case. And under Virginia law, any party that is aggrieved by a decision of the BZA has 30 days to file an appeal application called a petition in the circuit court stating why the BZA's decision was erroneous. Now here, the owners of 10 residential lots adjoining the golf course, some single family, some townhouse, and 2 cluster associations which own property along the golf course, came forward and said that the BZA's action will have a direct harmful impact on their properties, including by such things as diminished property values, loss of privacy and views, and increased traffic and noise. Now, these property owners' direct impacts, I believe, make them aggrieved and give them legal standing to challenge the BZA's decision. That's important, I think, to point out that if these 12 petitioning landowners get a positive outcome in court, it's not only going to help them, it's going to help the whole Reston community. Now, whether or not you live next to the golf course or not, you're still going to have the views, you're still going to have the recreational open space, you're still going to have the less traffic. And this is very important as to certain aspects of the court's ruling, of the BZA's ruling. The first is the one pointed out regarding the comprehensive plan, and does every development need to follow the comprehensive plan? When Reston adopted its master plan and the county subsequently incorporated into its comprehensive plan, the PRC district, which is applicable to Reston, specifically says that uses and development shall comply with the development plans that are adopted, and those development plans need to be adopted in accordance with the comprehensive plan. So here, the effect is not just, I think, on the properties immediately adjoining the golf course. It goes out farther than that, but to ensure that that parties who the court will find are aggrieved, these individuals that have been named in the lawsuit or who have brought the lawsuit, I believe are going to meet the legal standing to have the legal requirement to have standing to bring their particular lawsuit. Now, as far as why the BZA's decisions were erroneous, you've already heard a number of them. I mean, big ones that pop out right away are that the BZA ignored the development plans that were adopted in 1971. Those development plans on their face showed the golf course property as, in large capital letters, permanent open space and South Golf Course. They were very clear, but the BZA, as you heard, chose to ignore those because they were not found by, the copies of the plans were not found by the zoning staff until after June of 2012. So the BZA said it could disregard them. Secondly, the BZA's decision disregarded the applicability of the Reston Master Plan on development and uses in the PRC districts, as I said, and this goes to one of the first findings made by the BZA that is being appealed. The BZA's decision also would improperly allow, at least on part of the golf course, on a 36-acre section of the golf course, it would allow it to be developed without having to go through all the review and approval processes that the Fairfax County Zoning Administrator said were required. Now, there are many more grounds, and I don't have time to go over all of them. If anyone needs a copy of the petition that was filed by these adjacent landowners, I'm sure I can get one for you, or there's probably one already posted online.
Adjacent landowners?
Yes, adjacent landowners. The 10 individual property owners plus the 2 civic associations.
Yep, this is Connie. We'll be posting that up on the Rescue Reston website in the next day or so.
But let me end by saying that I'm glad to learn that the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors and the Fairfax County Zoning Administrator, as well as Reston Association, also filed petitions for appeal on May 15th. And while we all have different legal interests that we're trying to protect, I hope the fact that the governing body of the county and the Zoning Administrator and Reston Association, the fact that they've appealed as well, will show the court how serious the BZA's incorrect decision potentially is, not just to Reston, but county-wide. And so, unless there's some specific questions, Connie, I'll just turn it back over to you.
Okay. Well, we'll have a question and answer period at the end. And Denise, I see you've got a question. We'll come back to you, I promise, in just a few minutes. I want to put up a quick poll and find out a little bit about who on the call uses the golf course for what types of recreation. So if you all will take a moment, you can click on as many of those as apply to you. Let's take a few seconds there. And I'm just going to talk just for a minute while we finish up that poll. Every day, those of us on the Rescue Reston Board and other supporters who are very actively involved, we meet folks who do not know about the danger to our community and our way of life. There's one simple mantra that you need to remember, and that is no residential development of these 166 acres. All right, just can a couple more people want to respond to the poll? Otherwise, Trudy, we'll just close it in about 10 seconds, okay? Okay. So the slide that's up now is entitled How You Can Help, and then real big, spread the word now. A way to start those conversations with neighbors and friends is we still have Rescue Reston T-shirts and yard signs. You can order them off of our website. They make great conversation starters. We also have business cards. Anybody that wants business cards to hand out, it's a real easy way to have a short conversation with someone and then give them the business card, which gives them the website to look for more information, also possibly make a donation. We have one volunteer who does not live on the golf course, but he's been playing both courses in Reston since they each first opened. He's 82 years old, and he goes out to the course often and hands our cards out to golfers, most of whom had no idea that their golf course was in danger and are very happy to learn about it. in that so they can help. Now, the second bullet says think of ways to share with your network. One of our supporters paid for an ad. She's a Reston Chorale member. If you all know the wonderful singing group in Reston. She's a member, and she bought an ad in their performance program, and there's a copy of the ad over on the right. So each of you have your own network of friends and business associates that you would need to think about how, when you hear about something going on with Rescue Reston, how you can get that information out to your sphere of influence. Another supporter is building an email list of all of her environmentally oriented contacts, which will be really helpful. On Facebook, we have 880 followers on Facebook. When we post, we need you to repost. When we send a newsletter, we need you to then forward that to your email list. This will be a long-term effort, and we must never let Northwestern Mutual think we aren't watching. They thought that right before Thanksgiving when they started this up. And we showed them then, but we've got to keep showing them. Please watch our social media, website, newsletters for information on additional upcoming events and action alerts. Donate to the legal fund. Rescue Reston is helping to fund litigation of the multi-party lawsuit, and tonight we are launching a new fundraising campaign. We'll get to that slide in just a moment. I do want to mention that elections matter. The current Board of Supervisors is united on this being no residential development of these 166 acres. But two of the Board of Supervisors outside of our Hunter Mill District are retiring. Others may be challenged. Let's make this statement an election year issue. No residential development on these 166 acres. If our golf course falls, it's open season in Fairfax County. What is clear is that we have the facts and the evidence. RN golf attorneys have the deep pockets of Northwestern Mutual. We must stay united. So going to the next page, this is our Rescue Reston, our Save Our Open Space online fundraiser. I'd like to bring up a golf poll to just find out who on the line is a golfer. And while we're going through that, I'll just read the 166-acre green open space of Reston National Golf Course is integral to what makes Reston a special place to live, work, and play. Home to an abundance of wildlife, the rolling fairways with edge habitat are important to birders and hikers as well as golfers. Since it is a golf course, we go with that theme. For some of those that perhaps can't see or aren't viewing the slides, I'll let you know that we've just set up suggested donation levels. Caddy supporter of $25, par supporter $72, birdie eagle supporter, double eagle supporter, and our green jacket supporter level. Just a fun way to give people a nod when they donate. And we have these different levels of suggested donations, but please donate what you can. I hear that the kids of the 13th Fairway may plan a car wash this summer. We will gratefully promote any fundraising activity that a scout troop or the like might wish to take on to help fund the litigation. Attorney Randy Greehan is working to move the appeal forward at a generously discounted rate. Remember, he has the facts and the evidence. Let's help the petitioners who have hired this very experienced counsel protect our Reston. Share the link to our donation page with others whom you believe may be interested in preserving Reston, our master plan process, and our beautiful open space. Does the company you work for invest in the community? Don't overlook this possibility. The Rescue Reston team is available for presentations if needed. So of course, just by going to rescuereston.org, you very easily can find the donate link, or you can go directly there based on the URL, the website there. So thank you for joining us tonight. We know how valuable your time is. I'm going to turn this back over to our moderator, Trudy, and she'll get us started on questions and answers.
Thanks so much, Connie. Thanks, everyone. We can take questions and answer the phone line now, or if you prefer to type it into the chat window, we can address those as well. We'll try to go in an orderly fashion. Is there a question queued up? Of course, we'll thank you for attending while we're preparing to take questions.
Denise had asked a question about, the question was, did Rescue Reston not file an appeal? And maybe, Randy, could you help us all understand that?
Yeah. The reason that we considered that. The issue, though, is that under Virginia law, organizations that do not own property or cannot show that they as an organization have a direct and pecuniary impact from a decision, the courts have said don't have legal standing to bring suit. So typically what happens, what happened here was that landowners that are going to have the most direct impact from a decision end up filing the lawsuit. And so in this particular case, there was a number of adjacent residential landowners and as well adjacent cluster associations that wanted to step up and serve as petitioners, and so they are the entities that filed the petition. Rescue Reston, I don't think would have had legal standing as an entity, and so it would not have been an appropriate petitioner to file a petition.
Thanks, Randy. There are a few other questions in the chat from Chris. When will the appeal be heard?
What I expect will happen is, now that we know that there have been petitions filed by the Board of Supervisors and the zoning administrator, that's one, a second one filed by Reston Association, and the third one by I'll just refer to them as the adjacent landowners. That includes the two cluster associations. My expectation is that one of those parties or the court will ask that all the parties come into court one day and have a hearing as to how those cases will all be consolidated into one. My guess is that it's going to be within the next few months that we'll have that initial hearing, but it could be as long as 6 months or so before the court actually hears the appeal.
Another question from Linda is, other than raising funds, what are the next steps?
Well, this is Connie. I can start with that, and anyone else can please add in on the board. The fundraising is the main thing. I mean, we cannot go into this unarmed, and the other side is very well armed. You don't send your army into battle with no ammunition. So we need fundraising. Whatever additional ideas anyone has. The other big call to action, I would say, is, depending on where you live in the county, pay attention to the November elections for your county supervisor, and make sure whoever you're voting for is very big on controlled growth, planned growth.
And I think the other thing is, just generally, is the more people we have who know about this issue, who care about this issue, the more momentum we build. That's a critical thing. So talk to your friends, both in person and online, and let them know. Everybody who's been on this webinar, I think, now knows a lot more than the average person knows about this issue. And if you can direct people to our website, and we get more people informed, then they become potential donors also for the fundraising effort, and people who care about this as an election issue, and people who are just generally supporters of this effort. And I think that's all important.
Thank you. We've got a few other questions from Denise. Was Newbridge Cluster part of the appeal filing?
Again, this is Connie. I'll take the lead on that, since I guess I wore a paralegal hat for about a week, trying to, probably most people on this call recall the action alert that I sent out for plats. And anyway, Newbridge is not. There are two. They are golf course view cluster and what is it, Green, now I'm not thinking about it, Harbor Green, where they have it right here, Hunter's Green cluster. Hunter's Green cluster has probably the largest amount of common area physically bordering the golf course itself. The fact that any other cluster isn't mentioned, is not a petitioner, does not matter. It really doesn't. We only need a handful. We needed a representative grouping, and we do have household petitioners from each of the 3 sections of the golf course. So we have good coverage.
Yeah,
Thanks,
as
Connie.
Randy mentioned earlier, just because somebody isn't a party to the lawsuit doesn't mean that they won't reap the benefits that the people who are parties to the lawsuit are.
Good. Another question from Chris. Are we certain that the court will consolidate the appeals from the 3 petitioners?
I would say there's probably a 99% chance. I would very much doubt that the court will not want to hear all the issues at the same time because they all stem back from the same BZA decision on April 15th. So I'm convinced that they will all be heard by the court at the same time.
Okay. There was another question. How does our fundraising support the appeal effort since Rescue Reston isn't included in the appeal?
Rescue Reston is helping the petitioners or the appellants in the appeal to fund the appeal. So money that you provide to Rescue Reston is going directly to help fund this appeal.
And one more in chat from Bob. Do we have a copy of, I believe he means the plot, that was given to Reston National when they bought the golf course? Does it show the golf course is supposed to be permanent open space?
Randy, do you have a view on that?
The plan that...
This is the plat. He's asking if you have a copy of the plat that was given to Reston National when they bought the golf course. That I suppose he means as part of the deed when they bought the golf course.
Reston National contended at the BZA hearing that it was unaware of any restrictions limiting it to golf course and permanent open space. But those representations are on the 1971 zoning plans that even though the county did not have them, I was able to get them over at George Mason University's library, the Reston collections that they had. And so after that, the county indeed found the development plans, 2 of the 3 final versions, and one that was a submitted version that they still believe to be the same as the final version. They found them in their archives. So I have no doubt, I expect that the evidence will show that, in fact, they were pretty clear that they were buying a golf course. They weren't buying a piece of property for future development. Although, that's not the position that they took at the BZA hearing.
Other comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you're making about the fact that this is an election year for all members of the County Board of Supervisors. My question, actually 2 questions. One, is there any way that you foresee that the district court would hear the case prior to the November election? And 2, is there a backup plan being considered to purchase the 166 acres through the Reston Association as they did with the Tetra property recently?
I think, Randy, maybe you can address
I can address the issue about the timing. I think there is some chance that the court will hear it before the election, but if it is any indication, my understanding is that trials that are lasting at least a day in the circuit court, which I think this one with 4 sets of attorneys involved is going to last at least a day, those trials are being shot out in some cases as long as a year. Hopefully we can get it heard earlier than that. but whether, I can't say for sure it's going to be before the election.
And on the second part of your question, and Connie, jump in if you've got more current information, but I think that the former president, at least, Ken Knuven of Reston Association, was on record as saying the purchase of the golf course is something that Reston Association would consider. I don't know that there's any more concrete than that.
Well, I think that the thing to focus on is there are most likely multiple interested parties. It could even potentially be the county if they were to get the proffers they might need for whatever. There might be other private interested parties because it is a very successful, popular, profitable golf course. What we have to do is, once and for all, clear the threat of development. We've got to get that off the table, or for it to be set at a price that matches what a profitable, popular golf course should be sold for. Currently, Northwestern Mutual, they have the price up in the, up way, well above $50 million, $50 to $90 million, because they're hoping it can be developed. We've got to get that off the table before anyone can talk about buying it for recreational open space, which is what Northwestern Mutual bought it as. I want to be sure everyone is clear. Back 10 years ago, they paid just over $5 million. Just over $5 million to buy 166 acres in Reston with the Silver Line coming. They bought a golf course.
And Reston Association homeowners just paid $2.65 million for 3.5 acres of land at Tetra property on the south side of Lake Newport.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we're not going to get into that. I just quoted you the price from 10 years ago. Things have changed a lot. Northwestern Mutual bought majority ownership of 166 acres that had a land use designation of recreational open space. Tetra is zoned commercial, two completely different price points.
I think it's a strong case.
I mean, I think we felt pretty good about the BZA process, and from my perspective, this is David, and I know how agencies and decision-making process typically works in the legal world, and I was really surprised at the decision-making process of the BZA. It seemed their decision, as I said, was very difficult to follow and seemed very contradictory in a lot of ways. So, that happens sometimes. We think, as Randy said, we have a solid case, and we're hoping that when a judge looks at this, he's going to see the errors that the BZA made, and he's going to reverse their determination.
Thanks.
Yes, we're very excited to have the opportunity to have all the evidence heard in court. We expect to win. Realize that if we do, the other side may take this to the next level, which is the Virginia Supreme Court. And there is a case that at the Virginia Supreme Court level, a precedent that we think will be very helpful. So what you all can do is spread the word. We'd like this to end. We'd like Northwestern Mutual to stop. And perhaps just the more people we get, the more momentum, the more political pressure, maybe at some point they would. That would be the best option. So we wrap this up? Anyone have anything else to add?
Yeah, I would agree. If many of you recall, maybe some of you don't, about 15 years ago, Disney wanted to build a heritage theme park at Haymarket, Virginia, off of I-66. Citizen participation prevented that Disney heritage park from being built.
That's right, it did. It made all the difference.
Good point. Good point. Well, let us all say thank you to the audience. Thanks to everybody in Reston and further who joined us. Thanks to the speakers. The slides will be posted soon. We're making a combination of the slides and audio that will be produced and up in a few days. Please go to the rescuereston.org website for further news, and please get involved. We're counting on everyone's support. Thanks very much. This will end our call.